Good evening. We are now at the Regis Center for the closing night of the show Atras Abante, which is actually organized by Puro Arte and Kitakits. So we're gonna just go around the space to see what's happening. It was the seed like made the show. Now like we're gonna do the show.
No, the seed was there. It just germinated. Ito yan. Original Puro Arte 20 years ago.
Yeah.
First one-man exhibit. Okay. This guy, Marlon, that's Freddie Agraham. This is Marlon Fuentes, one of our first original with Mary Rose, first show in Puro Arte.
Okay. So this one, I remember you mentioned something that he shot all these
This is called headshot.
headshot, and then these are mga statues of figures from the Vatican, I believe. Yeah.
I don't know who they are.
We also have actually one of the co-organizer here, Tala.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
I
How
was
are you?
talking to Ruben, and maybe you can give us more of an insight of actually what was the seed that brought about to how the show actually happened. Maybe?
Oh, yeah. So what happened was that during the planning stages of Puro Arte and Atras Abante, actually, it was a collaboration between Puro Arte and Kitakits. So Kitakits is an emergent artist collective, and our goal was to definitely promote artists and to also help artists kind of promote each other. So Puro Arte came to Kitakits and was energized by what was going on, and from there we started to talk about possibly doing an artist crawl. It started out as an artist crawl. However, because of the time frame, we only had 3 months.
Okay.
What we did was we concentrated all of our energies and invited artists. Most of the artists that are here are from the old Puro Arte, which was on Temple Street in 1996 to 97. There are a few artists here that are newer, definitely newer, as a kind of a way to talk about Atras and Abante, which is to talk about the past and the future. So if you look at the works itself, whether they're traditional paintings or abstract work, they still have craft.
Yeah.
Craft is the overarching kind of reality. The craft is the overarching thing that that definitely came up. And then I started to look at craft as a higher form of art.
Maybe I was wondering if you actually can share something about this piece.
So this is the Bells of Balangiga, and this is Regis Center.
Oh, yeah.
He's a self-taught artist. He's considered a master painter. So this piece, from what I read and what I've had an opportunity to talk about with him, is that it's based off of a story from the Philippine-American War, where there's definitely casualties on each side, but the Americans decided to retaliate and decided it's pretty much a massacre of a village.
I think they massacred a village.
Yeah.
I was wondering actually if you've heard of the news recently that they did return.
So that's kind of what the big news is, because on Wednesday when I was here, 4 ladies who are friends of the artist came from San Diego to see the piece, but also to announce that the bells were actually being brought back to the Philippines.
Yeah.
So after decades of fighting to get the bells back to the Philippines, it finally happened. So on the whole, I think that as a painting, as a medium, and what painting does, and what painting was used for traditionally, it definitely, the craftsmanship is there.
Definitely, I could definitely see like just how that rendering, especially with the size and everything.
And I'm a painter, so I mean, if you look really close at his work, he knows how to use the paints beautifully.
Yeah.
How to make, how he blends it and how. I mean, this is really beautiful. the chiaroscuro.
So yeah, I was curious about like to also because a lot of these like although there are a lot of craftsmanship, I think 'cause it seems to be a really good balance of that whole I guess like conceptual kind of pieces and then like because yeah no it's
one
true.
room is actually a response to the other room.
Oh yeah.
Because if you look at from here, if you look at the right side, then you have contemporary art at its kind of
Yeah.
very retail, kind of
yeah.
very high,
Yeah.
conceptual, and very, dare I say, marketable.
Yeah. I
And
do
then
like
you
that
have-
balance.
Yes.
That balance definitely.
And then you have the painting, and then you
Yeah.
have Christine Morla's piece that definitely talks about, or that not contradicts, but definitely critiques painting.
I like that.
But she uses craft.
Yeah.
Her father was a weaver,
Oh really?
and her father handed down the craft to her. So what
Okay.
she does is she takes paper, recycled paper, and all of these things to create this really amazing kind of festive piece. But it also reminds me specifically of banigs
Oh yeah.
and how banigs create spaces.
Yeah.
And I think in this painting, she creates all of these bursts of spaces that talks about individual spaces
Yeah.
and then how they all kind of weave in together.
For
right?
sure. No,
So-
I like the use of material. I
Yeah.
think the works that really stand out to me are the ones where you could kind of see, there seems to be a relationship with the material that they use, especially in, like the times we live in where like ideas of waste,
Yes.
like culture. And
Yeah, I mean, she definitely talks about, I think in her work, for me,
Yeah.
she talks about a lot of the recycling and being more aware of the environment.
Yeah.
And, in the whole conceptual framework of what banig is, you are aware of your space.
Cirilo Domine here. He's one of the artists for the art show Atras Abante. How did you come about like organic shapes? Because I know you've done that a lot in the past work too.
Yeah, this is actually the fourth or fifth iteration of this piece. Originally, it took over an entire room, but the inspiration for this piece was from the 90s when I started collecting a lot of like tourist objects. And I thought like they look really sad, like in the junk shop, and I found these like in St. Vincent's in East LA, and I was like, there's a lot of this that have landed in America. And it kind of reminded me of myself as an immigrant. It also reminded me of like third world labor, of how these are all like handmade, but they're not precious. Someone took the time to actually bend the wood, take the time and make it, but they're not worth anything once they come here. So I was like, I want to give them another life.
Yeah.
Revive them and kind of like give them a separate entity to, I don't know, give them an extra boost.
Yeah.
With that layer of history that they have of like third world labor, and then myself as an immigrant,
They've
and have
lived,
to
like-
like give myself also my own value of the piece. So as you can see, there's like little heads and then little back scratchers.
Uh-huh.
So in that case, not only are they scratching themselves, but they're also going in orbits.
Yeah. I was just wondering the quality of the way they curve. Because I feel like that's also the more organic kind of like when you draw like the gesture, I guess, like the gestural like kind of quality.
It's completely random.
Yeah.
Actually, but when you buy these, they come in huge circular coils.
Okay.
And I had the choice of either flattening it or just taking over the shape that it takes already.
Hi, this is Ferdinand. I agree. I'm one of the artists of the Atras Abante show. And I was really like, wow, this is a very interesting piece. And I was actually wondering pretty much like, what kinds of other materials do you work with? Because I know you've been doing art for a long time, and, and why you choose those kinds of materials.
Yeah, basically, thank you. Basically, this particular piece, which is almost leaning now because I think it's structurally about to go, was just put together because I collected all these boxes just recently because before I left the art scene back in the 90s, I was interested in going in that direction, these sculptural pieces. But this time I wanted them to out in the desert. And they had to be like, because the desert right now is just unreal. There's just trash out there. But the fact that I was using, we have a little Filipino or Oriental market, like maybe one or of two in the whole valley. And so they throw this stuff away. And I was figuring, hey, you know what? I want to make something out there. I want to use this stuff because it's, they're just wasting it. And so I'm using it from a formal standpoint. So I had in its mind that stacking things is basically from a formal thing at first. So when I do these pieces, I'm just stacking them. I'm not really thinking about how I'm stacking them. I just want them to structurally be stacked.
Yeah.
And then later on, I just walk away from them. Oh my gosh, why did I use these particular boxes? I just happened to have them.
Yeah. I like that it's very playful. I'm with Mary Rose Covarrubias Mendoza, and she's one of the artists of the Atras Abante. The specific piece that she has here is she actually has a balikbayan box. Is that balikbayan box? Or how did that come about? Like the material, I'm curious about the origin of what prompted you to actually like use the material that you used for this piece in the show.
I do feel like I wouldn't have been so interested in using the box if it hadn't had associations to balikbayan box, but it's not to me a balikbayan box. It is about transport though, and it is about so it does make that association for sure. But I did this piece over in Joshua Tree where I was playing around with the form of the box and as a drawing, and then all of a sudden I decided I'm going to use a real box, and it just transformed the space for me to use a real box. And so this one is like maybe the third of the boxes that I've done where I'm actually using real cardboard.
So this one is actually very like interesting to me, the like long pink box, because I feel like that's like a cake.
Yeah.
Is that like a cake?
Well, when I came in here earlier, the one person that knew that what it was it's actually more associated to me with a siopao box, because when we were growing up here in America, there were hardly any Asian markets or Asian bakeries. And so the closest thing were Chinese bakeries, and so they would sell siopao in the pink boxes.
Was it in Wangkok, Chinatown? Was it in Chinatown?
It was near Wangkok, for sure, and that's still there.
Yeah, that's still there right now.
And then what they would do is they would tie it with string.
Yeah.
And so now it's associated with a lot of Southeast Asian immigrants that have like donuts, right? But definitely for me, my first association is siopao.
One more thing before, are you planning to expand on this? Like, is it going to be, do you see this work expanding? Like, how you're using the boxes and the kapwa with the like logo type? I don't know, because I feel like I could see it as like, could be growing into something. And do you have any plans, something with this work in particular?
Maybe. I think if I'm not sure. I think I do like doing the cardboard box pieces, so it might come back. And not sure about the kapwa, but I think that it's, it just takes time for me to resonate with some of these things when they become like symbols.